I was just making sure to see I'm getting a bigger audience than Jeff is.
Okay, we're recording. Here we go.
I got him by one right now. Well, good morning, everybody. We're finishing up week 8, so we've got one more week to go. And all the planes are certainly flying upside down at this point. I think I spend most of my time right now just wandering around going, what the hell are they doing? All of the bills on our, and I've got a couple that aren't on the report that I'm going to talk about as well, but let me go through these first. The construction defects claims really hasn't changed at all since last week. The Senate bill still, takes the 10-year statute of repose down to 7, but they have that fraudulent concealment language in there that could just be open-ended, that a claim could be filed at any time in the future. So obviously we don't like that. The House bill takes the 10-year statute of repose to 7. It has a 15-year statute of repose if there's fraudulent concealment that can be proven. And it says by clear and convincing evidence, as I mentioned last week. And then now, they had repealed Chapter 58, then they didn't repeal Chapter 558. Now they're repealing it again, but they saved the part that we wanted about the individual engineer's liability and would move that from Chapter 558 to Chapter 768. But like I said, that was the same report that I gave you last week. It looks as though the Senate bill's in the House and waiting for the House to move, but the House has not moved on it. So I don't know that if it's in trouble or, a lot of the bills seem to be in that posture right now where the Senate bill and the House bill just don't match up. And some of them are going to die because they don't match up. Some of them they'll get fixed and we'll move forward. But hopefully this is the former rather than the latter, and it just goes away. The transportation projects, both of those bills now do the progressive design build for projects above 400 million. You might remember that I think the Senate bill was at 250 million prior. So they have brought that up. The Senate bill still contains the cap on the trust fund percentages for seaports and airports. They've said that they were going to take that off, but it hasn't been taken off yet. But that bill will be on the Senate floor this morning, so they can make the changes there, obviously. And so hopefully they'll get that lined up with the House bill. But the House bill, which has passed now and is they're waiting for the Senate, has the $400 million threshold, but they also have some language in there that requires mobility fee credits. There's a new program that they would create with the University of Florida that's got a very long name. But now something new since last week, it reestablishes the Greater Miami Expressway Agency. I know I had seen the same amendment drafted for the Senate bill, so I think it'll probably go on there today. So what they would need to do in the Senate is they're cool on the 400 million. They would either need to put in the mobility fees and the project with the University of Florida and the Greater Miami Expressway Agency. They'd have to add those to the bill and then pass it, or do whatever, put whatever they want or take whatever they want out of their bill and then send it back to the House in order to get those lined up, because the House bill obviously has like 3 very different things in there that the Senate doesn't have at this point. So they'd also have to get rid of that trust fund percentage for the seaport. So those are pretty far apart at this point, but
Hey,
doesn't appear like it would be real hard to fix it. Yep.
hey, Alan, this is Derek. Just want to tell you, I'm talking to Senator Hooper through text exchange this morning. They're going to TP the bill today on the Senate floor. There's still, I guess there's still some discussions being had on the expressway, so they're going to TP it when it comes up today.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, good to know, because I sat for hours yesterday waiting on the Surfside bill, and they got to it, and they said, Senate Bill 1702, let's show that one TP'd, move to the next bill. I'm like, crap. I sat here watching them. But it happens. Okay, so that's transportation projects. Derek, did you have anything to add on the construction defect bills?
I mean, what I've been hearing is there's work being had that they're leaning on Representative Grawl. You know, she's a trial attorney, and she's been the one who's been instrumental on what the House bill looks like right now. And so I know that the industry has basically told Senator Hudson that they're actually absolutely okay with the bill being halted this year if the House isn't agreeable to anything. But the last I heard was they were still trying to convince Representative Grawl to let up a little bit. I'm not sure where things are as of now in that regard.
Okay. Yeah, that's a bill it's one of these that just, you know, from day one seemed like it had problems, and like that bill's just not going to make it, yet it's still hanging around. So we need to continue to keep an eye on that. You guys have done a good job on that one. That one's been hard to follow. They're all hard to follow right now. The professional structural engineer's license should, you know, they changed it in the House. It's just a recognition program. You know, I was talking with Zaina Raybon from the Board of Professional Engineers the other day, and you know, we were talking about that bill. It does absolutely nothing. It just, if you're a structural engineer and you go and you pass that test, 16-hour test, then you can say you passed the test, and the board will say that you went above and beyond and will recognize you, and you can use that in your future marketing materials. There's no certificates, there's no fees for anything. It's just a pat on the back, and you know, good luck to you. The Senate bill is a little different. That actually creates a license. They've passed it out of all of its committees. It's ready to go on the Senate floor, but they just have it retained on the special order calendar, which means they probably TP'd it at some point, and they just have it sitting on the special order calendar waiting to see what the House does. Rather than take the time, you know, the Senate would pass that bill out in a heartbeat. Problems are all on the House side. And I don't personally think that the House is going to go any further than they've gone here. So,
Alan, is there some reconciliation to happen there? I mean, they're going to be able to reach, because they're pretty far apart. If you ask me, I mean, one creates some additional licensing requirements, and then on the House side, they just want to pat you on the back and say you're a structural engineer.
Right. Well,
are we going to be able to salvage this or not?
Right. I don't think so.
So it's out again for another year, another session?
I don't think they'll be able to get it back together because, you know, I've said from the beginning and for the last several years as this bill's come up, you don't have a governor and you don't have a House that wants more regulation, that wants another license, that, you know, they're trying to get rid of licenses. Now, having said that, what I would say is this doesn't meet up with what we want, and I'll just discuss this in a little more detail. This kind of leads me into the Surfside bills. One of the big problems we're having with the Surfside bill is the lack of a definition of a structural engineer in the statutes. So just about everything that we're running into on the Surfside bills has to do with, if we try to put qualifications on the engineers, we're either, you know, cutting a group out that is qualified to do it, or we're opening the door for folks who aren't qualified to do it to be able to do it. And it all goes back to, you know, this lack of a definition. So both sides keep trying to fall back to the special inspector of threshold buildings because that's all they've got as far as a definition. So I've had conversations with the board. We were actually asking the House and Senate a few days ago if they would be interested in just having, you know, the Board of Professional Engineers determine the criteria for who could do these inspections, and they both passed on that. So we're still working with them on that. But let me go ahead and just jump to those, because Carlos, to answer your question, I don't think that structural engineer license bill is going to pass. Not in the House anyway. 1702. 1702 was on the calendar in the Senate, on the Senate floor yesterday, and they TP'd the bill. That doesn't, sometimes that would mean a bill is dead. I don't think that's the case here. I've just gotten off the phone right before this meeting with staff from the Commerce Committee asking me some questions about submitting the reports to the building officials and stuff like that. So they're working, they're deep in the weeds on the details. So I think they just, when they got to it yesterday, they just weren't ready to go with it. The bills they're somewhat similar, but they have some major differences. A lot of the stuff in both of them is similar, but and I've talked about this. So far, the House bill does not have any requirement or basically any requirements for the person doing the inspection other than they be licensed under 471 or 481. Well, we all know they don't license by discipline. So we've tried to put some additional qualifications in there about years of experience doing inspections and years of experience doing design. Some of the conversations this week have been about that. And that's where we came up with the idea of let the Board of Professional Engineers do it. They've done it for other things. The other one is the House bill doesn't charge the building commission with kind of keeping up with this and taking this on going into the future, which we think is pretty critical because there's a lot of details here. These bills are, not all that detailed. So there's, a lot of the finer points, need to be taken care of. The building commission is not known to work fast, but they work faster than the legislature. And so we feel like, it's just like the building code. That's eventually where this thing belongs, to have a program for mandatory inspections of existing buildings. They've already got some information from CCC or CCI or the International Code Council. They've got some from the, American Concrete Institute. They've got a lot of information to work with, and it would just be better to turn it over to them instead of coming back to the legislature every year, trying to fix this and that we're seeing, because this is a big move, and we're going to see some kinks, as we go along here the first few years, and we just feel that's the way to go. So it's in the Senate bill, but it's not in the House bill. So those are the types of things that they're trying to get worked out in order to get the bill in position for final passage. So I have no other indication that, there was another reason, although it could have been TP'd yesterday. And TP, by the way, means temporarily postponed. Sometimes that means permanently postponed, but I think we are temporary here, unless the problem is coming from, say, the condo associations and the insurers and the trial lawyers and all the other people that are involved in other sections of this bill that, we stayed out of because it's not our area of expertise, so to speak. So we're kind of dealing with them strictly on the inspections and the structural components of the bill, and then these other groups are working on the other parts. So, there could be some problems coming from that side as well. But I think just the pure nature of this bill and the reason these bills are here, plus all the pressure that we've put on them. And Edie's put on them, through the op-eds in the newspapers and the different stories that are out there. And I haven't seen anything yet, but, it's not just our local papers. I've had interviews in the past week with ENR. I've had interviews with the Wall Street Journal. A lot of people are following this bill. So there's some pressure built up there to do something, and I think they will. It's just a matter at this point of what, and we're just trying to hold as much of our recommendations, hold as many of them in there as we can, before we get the final product. So still working on it. I'm kind of jealous of Jeff Littlejohn. He got on his report this morning and was basically like, okay, we know what's passed, we know what hasn't. So he's winding down, and we're still going strong here on our side. But if there's any questions about that, go ahead and let me answer those, and then I'll move to a couple of different things.
Hey, Alan, what happened with the meeting with Danny Perez and the Senate, or his staff in the Senate yesterday?
I've not heard anything back. The only thing I've got back was like I said, I was on the phone with staff of the Commerce Committee this morning, and their question was really very simple. They said we were under the impression that the engineers didn't want to be required to send the report to the building official for a phase 1 inspection. And I'm like, no, we've never brought that up.
Yeah, there's so much, you know, just people talking about it that are misinformation that it's getting really
Right.
bad.
Right. I'm like, no, you know, that in fact gives us the information that, you know, people are going to need going forward. You know, like this building, the building official would have that information as this building's passed its recertification 3 times. You know, this building has repaired, this building, you know, they would have much better information on their side. So, you know, I told them, no, that's not a problem with us at all. But you're right. I mean, you know, there's so many stakeholders in this that, you know, people start chatting and, you know, they don't know what they're talking about sometimes. And, you know, our concerns are very simple with this. And it's just what I said. We need better qualifications for the person doing the inspection than the house has, which is just the license under 471. And we would like this to end up with the building commission to take care of as we go forward. That's our 2 big issues.
Yeah, the one I hear is we're not going to have enough engineers or structural engineers to be able to take this thing on, and that's been going on for a couple of weeks.
That's part of the issue with the qualifications of the engineers. You know, they brought up, none of us know. I mean, the problem with that is because we don't have a statutory license, we don't a statutory definition, and we don't license by discipline. Nobody knows for certain how many structural engineers we have in this state that can do this work. The only thing you have are the special inspectors, and there's about 660 of them. But even if you start looking at them, some of them, you know, that's new construction for the most part. You know, there's some of them that probably spent their career looking at new construction on threshold buildings that have never walked into an existing building to inspect it. On the flip side, I know we had people in our work group that have spent their career inspecting existing buildings, but aren't certified to be special inspectors because that's not what they do, and they don't need it. So, you know, you start running into those types of issues. They were talking the other night about, you know, we have the requirement in the Senate bill right now would be 5 years of design experience and 5 years of inspection experience on existing buildings. And they're like, how many people are going to have both? Well, I don't even know how many there are to start with. So I don't know how many would have both of those. So they're worried that would mean we wouldn't have enough people to get this done. So, you know, it's all coming back to the fact that we don't have the definition, and we don't know how many we have. And so if somebody says we don't have enough, you know, our answer just has to be, well, we think we do, but we really think we can't say for sure. And so that's you've hit the crux of the problem right there. So it might be that, you know, next year we're coming back with a whole different structural engineer licensing bill that's got a definition in it, and to get this taken care of. But we'll keep moving forward. Like I say, we got a week, which is a lifetime in this business. So
thank you.
On these bills. All right, Sandy. Let me pull you up here. Okay, so we're looking at House Bill 985 and 974, which changes the rules as far as sovereign immunity for local governments, and CEIs operate as an agent of the state, so they could get caught up in this. So let me jump over to the actual bills here. The Senate bill is Senate Bill 974. They have now moved to a few weeks ago when we talked about this one kind of briefly. The Senate was set at raising it from $200,000 per person, $300,000 per occurrence, to just a flat $1 million, $1 million per person or $1 million per occurrence. They're in the process of changing these bills. I'm not sure if they're going to get there or not, but anyway, the Senate bill now breaks all this up, and for a county or municipality that has a population of less than 50,000, it would stay at 200,000 per claim or 300,000 per occurrence. For state universities, public colleges, subdivisions, and other entities, with sovereign immunity that are not a state agency, county constitutional office, or municipality, it would stay at 200,000 per claim or 300,000 per occurrence. For a county or municipality that has a population of more than 50,000 up to 250,000, it would move up to 300,000 per claim, 400,000 per occurrence. And for the state or county with population of more than 250,000, it would be 400,000 per claim and 600,000 per occurrence. Let me jump over to the other one. The latest on the House bill, which is 985, is $400,000 per person or per claim, and 600,000 total. They don't set out the rest smaller for that. They're at 400 and 600, which is the high level for the Senate. One of these bills still has a committee left. And let me go back and look at that.
The Senate version does, Alan.
Does it? Okay.
It has a
Is it appropriations?
yes.
Yeah. Are they meeting again? Do we know?
Well, right now there's no committee scheduled to meet again. I mean, I think rules probably do another meeting, and Probst could possibly as well. Starza was telling people she not planning on meeting anymore. So some have tried to declare this bill dead for that reason. I mean, we've seen in the past, Alan, you know this, where they'll announce a meeting well after day 50. So
right. Well, or they've got a number of options.
Transportation is an investment in the future.
They
of our state. The
here in
Florida
some
Department of Transportation.
everybody can
Reaching
mute.
Florida moving.
So yeah, they could remove it. If the chair was willing to do that, remove it from that committee and just bring it to the floor. They could amend it onto something else. I mean, they've got all kinds of different. So I'm not about to call it dead, but I know they are a little different right now. And the people that are really complaining about this, because they're getting hit in a couple different ways, you see that in the Senate bill's language, or the smaller counties. You just don't have the funds, and they're also getting hit. There's a bill out there that would increase the homestead exemption for teachers and firefighters and such for another $50,000. So they're complaining about that. So they're getting hit on the fiscal side a lot. So they're I think making a lot of noise as well. But anyway, does that answer your question, Sandy? That they're close, but they have problems and they're not the same, and so they've got some work to do if they want to get this passed.
Yep, it sure does answer it. If you could just give us an update again next week. I know the CR folks will greatly appreciate it.
Sure, and it looks like they've kind of landed at the 400 million per claim and 600,000 per occurrence. With the exception of the Senate, which cuts that down for the smaller counties and such. So if they work it out, they have to work it out there. So it might be less in some areas than others, or it might just be 400 and 600 across the board when they're done. So we'll just have to keep on top of it and see what happens. But thanks for bringing that up, because we had chatted about that a few weeks ago, and then it kind of fell by the wayside. And then JW, are you on the line?
Yes, Alan.
Okay. JW sent me a email just this morning. Well, rather than me read this, JW, could you just briefly summarize what you got from Dan Hurtado?
Okay, there's in the appropriations bill are two additional paragraphs that impact FDOT. One paragraph is that they would provide essentially a summary report of their actions regarding cost savings for design and CEI and construction projects. Just a summary report back to the legislature that's due in December. we were hoping that this topic would not come back up. However, this was not completely unexpected, and it should be a fairly benign report. We didn't want the issue to come back at all. But the department's not too concerned about it. I don't think we should be too concerned about it. The second paragraph in there, and if you look at the bill, it's lines 1969 through 1974, which were some of the best years of my life. Anyway, the second paragraph is an addition that if the department recognizes savings on a construction project, once the design and construction contracts have been let, the department has the option of sharing up to 10% of the cost savings with the designer and potentially the CEI on those projects. Currently, any type of those savings, which the department calls a cost savings initiative or CSI, currently those savings are split 50-50 between the contractor and the department. The contractor would still retain their 50%, but the department's share would be reduced to 40 or up to 40, and then the engineers, if you to phrase it that way, have a potential of getting up to 10%. So again, I don't know that we've got an objection to that because we've never had that opportunity before. My concern when I read it is it's not very well defined when and how A, the department would elect to do so, and then B, what that split would be between the designer and CEI.
Okay, so other than keep a very close eye on this, this is for those, JW said the budget, which is technically correct, but this is in the budget implementing bill, which number one means it would only be in effect for a year unless it was renewed. And I don't know exactly where they are in that process, Derek. I assume it's still ongoing. So I'll send this over to you guys. It's page 69 of 79 in the implementing bill is where they talk about this. And like JW says, it's not something to panic over. I worry about, we're in that subject again, and I wouldn't want to see a last minute change that turned it into something bad.
Alan, is it in both sides?
I'll have to look that up as well. This is actually coming from the Senate. So yeah, JW sent it to me at 8:30 this morning. So I'll look into that and make sure, because that's a very good question. And as we've been sitting here, I've gotten a text or an email from the senior attorney with the Regulated Industries Committee saying we're all good. So hopefully the Surfside stuff will move. So any other questions? If I find something alarming about the issue that JW has brought up, because I'll go look at the other side. Lord knows if it's in there what it says. I would hope it would be the same. We'll let everybody know. All right. Anybody got anything else?
Yeah, this is Paul. I just one concern about that last thing we discussed about the cost savings for CSI. If the public ever got a hold of that, while I'm all for getting paid to approve something, it just seems like it's could be an ethical issue with, you're actually getting paid to cooperate to approve a CSI, and I don't know, it just could be perceived poorly from an ethical standpoint. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Right. And Paul, one of the things I did mention to Dan also along that same lines is any type of punitive pushback on the designer. Well, why didn't you think of this during the design process? So we would have to be able to essentially document, or, you know, why it wasn't considered, or even provide some kind of justification as to why we think it's a good idea. So I'm not, it is very, very broad and open if you look at that language. So like Alan said, I think it's something we need to look at, and then obviously work with the department when and how it's implemented.
Okay.
You know, Alan, this is Steve. One thing that I think we need to think about pretty hard on this. I think the House Appropriation Chairman's wife is a CSI.
Yeah, she is.
If I recall correctly.
Yeah, she is.
And so I don't know if this came from him or what. So we need to be careful about how we approach it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, she is. She owns she's a partner in a little CEI firm over in Panama City. All right, anybody else? All right, like I said, one more week of this. So when we meet next Friday, except for whatever they hold for next Friday, we should have the answers to some of these. So hopefully, I hope the list isn't still full when we get to Friday next week, or that will be one hell of a day.
Exciting stuff, Alan. Thanks. Great update.
Thanks. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Al.
Stay well.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.